All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go over the study guide real quick. So you should have already finished the study guide. If you have not, please do not watch this video till you finish the study guide. We are going to go over it, like I said. So working out each problems and things of that nature. Just going through and showing y'all how to do these one last time, okay? So I will tell you, as you go through this study guide, the harder problems are at first, and it kind of gets easier as you go. So that's something to look forward to. So first thing we have is using the formula volume equals length times width times height to find the volume. So we're just really finding volume, okay? And remember, when we find volume, it's V equals length times width times height, okay? If you can read my wonderful writing there, V equals length times width times height. So what I'm going to do when I calculate those is I'm just going to multiply, okay? So I've got V equals length, we'll go with 3, times width, which is 2 and 1/4, times height, which is 8 and 1/4. Plain and simple. So I go ahead and multiply those across. Here you can use a calculator. Okay, you can use a calculator. I've got the fraction 1/4. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to put 0.25 as my decimal. It's easier than hitting the fraction button on the calculator, and we should be able to convert those easy fractions back into decimals. Okay, so I've got 3 times 2.25, which is 1/4, times 8 and 1/4. When I multiply those together, my answer is going to be 55.6875. Now, I am going to round that, so I'm going to go with 55.69, okay? I'm going to round it to the hundredths place. Next problem I have, I've got 3 and 1/4 times 3 and 1/4 times 3 and 1/4, because that is the length, width, and height. So V equals L times W times H. So I've got volume equaling 3 and 1/4 times 3 and 1/4 times 3 and 1/4. So when I do that, once again, I'm at 3.25. So 3.25 times 3.25 times 3.25. It's going to equal 34.33. 34.33. Now, I did forget to label over here. My apologies for that. But meters cubed and inches cubed. All right, lastly over here, we're finding the volume. So I've got V equals length times width times height. All right, we've got a couple different numbers here, and that's kind of okay. I've just got to decipher which one to use. All right, so the length is going to be 9 and 1/4. The width, how wide it is, will be 2 and 1/3. And then lastly, the height is probably the easiest. It's going to be 4. Okay, so I'll enter that into the calculator. I'll actually use the fraction button this time. So I've got 9 fraction 1 fraction 4 times 2 fraction 1 fraction third times 4. When I hit calculate and enter that, I get 86 and 1/3. 86 and 1/3. Now, that is feet cubed. And just like on the other one, guys, you can have either or on that. You can have either or on that, okay? Let's go number 4 right here. I've got V equals length times width times height, okay? V equals length times width times height. So V equals length, which is 10.3, width 3.7, and then height 2.4. Okay? Length, width, height. So when I do that, I multiply 10.3. Help if I hit point instead of negative. 10.3 times 3.7 times 2.4. My answer for that is 91.464. So we'll run that to 91.46 inches cubed. All right, on 5, V equals length times width times height. Remember, you always want to write that formula. Then you want to plug in your numbers. So 7 times 4 times 5. 7 times 4 times 5 equals 140. So 140 inches cubed. Lastly, for these volume problems, we've got number 6 here. V equals length times width times height. So I've got 4 let's go with the actual length here. We'll go with 3.6 times 5 times 4.2. So clear it, 3.6 times 5 times 4.2. The answer I get is 75.6 inches cubed. Okay, I'll give you just a second to write all that down there. Make sure it's all correct. All right. So what we're doing on this one is we're kind of looking at the equation because I don't know the height here, I don't know the width here, and I don't know the length. So it's kind of like what we done in class on Thursday. So I'm going to enter in my formula, V equals L times W times H. Okay. And then I'm going to put my volume. So 43.56 equals the length, which is 6.6, times the width, which is 2.2, times H. So the first thing I got to do is combine my like terms and combine those two, uh, let's see, length and widths. So I've got 6.6 times 2.2. That gives me 14.52. So I've got 43.56 equals 14.52 H. So I divide this side by 14.52, divide this side by 14.52. So 43 and 56 hundredths divided by 14 and 52 hundredths is going to equal 3. Okay, going to equal 3. So H equals 3 centimeters. Now remember, on this one, I do not cube it because it's not the actual volume. It's just the dimension, just like one of these other ones. Okay, so let's do the next one. V equals length times width times height. So I plug in my volume, 107.604 equals length, we'll go with 4.2, times the width, which is 12.2, and then lastly times the height, or sorry, we don't have the width, that's the height right here, and the width we do not have, okay? The width we do not have. So let's go ahead and combine our like terms here. 4.2 times 12.2, that's going to equal 51.24. So I've got 107.604 equals 51.24 W. So I divide by 51.24. I do the same over here. And that gives me 107.604 divided by 51.24. When I do that, I get an answer of 2.1. So W equals 2.1 meters. So last but not least, V equals length times width times height. On this one, I've got 12.167 as my volume. The length I do not have. The width is 2.3. The height is 2.3. So when I combine my like terms, I have 2.3 times 2.3. And that gives me 5.29, which I divide by. And 12.16 divided by 5.29 equals a gigantic number of 2.29, yada, yada, yada. What we're going to do is we're going to round that to 2.2. Well, we'll round that up all the way, so 2.3. So L equals 2.3 feet. Okay. So now, down at the bottom down here, we just have different dimensions, okay? We've got different dimensions, and we're finding the volume, okay? So we have a rectangular box that is 12.7 centimeters long, 71 centimeters high, or 7.1 centimeters high, and 3 centimeters high. So V equals length times width times height. So I've got V equals the length, 12.7, times the width, which is 7.1, times the height, which is 3. So putting that in the calculator, 12.7 times 7.1 times 3. The answer I get on that one is 270.51. So 270.51. And that's cubic centimeters. Next one, we've got a cube. So all the sides are going to be the same. So my V equals length times width times height. It's all going to be the same. So V equals 11 and 1/4 times 11 and 1/4 times 11 and 1/4. So I have 11.25 times 11.25 times 11.25. When I multiply all those together, it gives me 1423.828. So we're going to round that to 0.83. So 1423.83. Lastly, a rectangular box is 9.8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 2.5 feet high. So length times width times height. Volume equals 9.8 times 4 times 2.5. 9.8 times 4 times 2.5. And that gives me 98. So 98 cubic feet. 98 cubic feet. All right, so take just a second and make sure you have all those written down on that. And I'll be back with you shortly. All right. So let's move to the next page here. We have a couple of nets up at the front, or up on the top up here. We can use the calculator on this still. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to, let's see if I can get a piece of paper to write on here to make this a little bit easier. Okay. Since this is a prism, okay, a rectangular prism, I know that I have 3 different shapes. Okay. 3 different shapes. So shape 1 is going to be this side right here, which I'm going to draw. And that's going to be a rectangle. Okay. So the front / back. And there's going to be 2 sides to that one, a front and a back. Then I have the same shape almost, which is the top and the bottom. Let's put 2 up here so we don't get confused. So top, bottom. There's 2 sides on that one as well. And then I have these sides. There's 2 sides, and they're kind of more of, they look more like a square. They're not a square, but they look a little bit more like a square. Okay. So now let's get my dimensions, okay? We're finding the surface area. So we're back to area now. So area is always squared. So let's look for the front. I've got the front and then the height right here. So at the same time, this is the thing I'm looking at, this shape right here. So I've got 8 and 6. And this shape over here, that's going to be the smaller shapes at the top and bottom right here. Top, bottom. So I've got 8 and 4. And then my smaller sides, I've got 6 and 4. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my formula for area for each of these. Each of these are a rectangle, so it's length times width. Then I'm going to plug in my information. A equals length, 8 times width, 8 times 6. Okay? 8 times 6 is going to be 48. This is meters squared. Length times width here is 8 times 4. 8 times 4 is going to give me 32. And then lastly, 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is going to give me 24. All right. Now, I should have done this as we were doing it, but now I've got to go for 2 sides on each of these. Okay? So 48 times 2. 48 times 2 is going to give me 96. 32 times 2 is going to give me 64. And lastly, 24 times 2 is going to give me 48. All right, now the last step when I'm calculating area on these is I'm going to add all of them together. So I've got 96 plus 64 plus 48. 96 plus 64 plus 48. So I have 208. 208 meters squared, okay? And that's going to be the surface area. So 208 meters squared. All right. Now my next shape here, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3. These two sides are going to kind of be the same right here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 different shapes. Okay, 3 different shapes. So my first shape is going to be these two sides. Okay, so I've got this side and the other side. So I've got a rectangle that is, we'll go with 8 centimeters. Well, hang on, time out. Let me rewind that thinking because this one's 6 and this one's 8, so I do have 4 different shapes. So I'm going to have to draw 4 different shapes. My apologies on that. All right, let's go with this rectangle first. We're going to call this rectangle 1, this rectangle 2, and this rectangle 3. All right, so let's get our dimensions. The first one's going to be 10 by 6. The second one's going to be 10 by 10. The third one is going to be 8, and since this is 10, we know this is 10 as well. So 8 by 10. Now the triangle is a little confusing, okay? The triangle is a little confusing. I don't have a standing or a line that's standing up straight right here, so I can't use the triangle like it is, okay? I've got to use these 2 dimensions down here. So if I look at that, I can see that my triangle's base is going to be 6, and then my height is going to be 8. Okay, now there's only one shape in each of these. So I'm going to find my formula. Area equals length times width. Area equals length times width. Area equals length times width. And then lastly, area equals 1/2 times base times height. All right, and remember there's only one shape on each. So I've got 6 times 10. That's going to give me 60. I've got 10 times 10. That's going to give me 100. I've got 8 times 10. That's going to give me 80. And then lastly, I've got 1/2 times base times height. So area equals 1/2 times the base times the height. So I'm going to find half of 6. Area equals 3 times 8. And then 3 times 8 is going to be 24. So when I add all of those together, that gives me 60 plus 100 plus 80 plus 24. Sorry, that's 80 plus 24. Enter, and I get 174. Let me go back through and make sure I tallied that correct. 60 plus 100 plus 80 plus 24. All right, 174. All right. So moving on, I have the pyramid right here. Anytime I do a pyramid, I have, I've already written on that one, sorry. Come on, where's the sheet of paper? That didn't sound good. Here we go, we'll just use a sticky note. That works. So I've got this square pyramid right here. So I need to find the base, and then I need to find the four sides. Okay, the base is going to be square. The sides are going to be triangles. Right, so my square base is going to be 10 by 10. My four triangles, as I can see, are 10 by 8. So 10 is going to be the base. And it's going to be 8 centimeters high. Okay, so my formula is area equals length times width, and area equals 1/2 times base times height. So when I work this out, length times width, I've got 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is going to be 100, and there's only one side on this one. So I've got A equals 1/2 times base times height, so times 10 times 8 over here. So A equals half of 10. Half of 10 is going to be 5 times 8, and then 5 times 8 is 40. However, there are four sides with this one, so I need to multiply this by 4. 4 times 40 is going to give me 160. Okay, so what I do after that is I take my 160 and add my 100 to it to get the total, and that's going to give me 260, and then we are looking at centimeters squared. Centimeters squared. Okay, now the cube. The cube is 6 sides, but they're all the same, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and draw my square. I can see that they're 9 by 9. So area equals length times width. Area equals 9 times 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So 81, and then I have to multiply that by 6 because there's 6 sides. So I got 81 times 6 equals 486. 486. Okay, so moving on down, I got another cube again. So this cube is going to be 6 sides. With this cube, I have 2.5 as my sides all the way around. So 2.5, 2.5. So volume, or not volume, we're doing area now, equals length times width, and that's going to be 2.5 times 2.5. And that gives me 6.25. Now, what I need to do with that is I need to multiply that by 6, which is 37.5. 37.5, and we've got meters squared. So that is the answer for this one. All right, now we have another one of these weird shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the shapes I see. I see a front and back. Okay, it's going to look like a rectangle. With that front and back, I've got 11 centimeters on the bottom, 4 centimeters height, so 11 and 4. Then I have two sides. And then on those sides, I've got 4 by 2. And then the top slash bottom. On the top and bottom, there's obviously 2, but it's going to be 11 by 2. Okay, so I've got area equals length times width. Area equals 11 times 4. 11 times 4 is going to be 44. Area equals length times width. Area equals 2 times 4. Area equals 8. Area equals length times width. Area equals 2 times 11. And area equals 22. Now, I've got to look at the sides now. So there's 2 sides on this one. So 44 times 2. 44 times 2 is 88. So A equals 88. 8 times 2 is going to be 16. And then 22 times 2, that's going to give me 44. So I've got to add those all together. I've got 88 plus 16 plus 44. And that gives me 148. So 148 centimeters squared. All right, on the bottom down here, I've kind of got 2 of the same shapes. Okay, 2 of the same shapes. So I'm going to do each side. I'm just going to kind of breeze through these real quick, guys, just to save time. So this side is going to be 5 by 4. There's 2 of them. This side is going to be 2 by 5, and the top is going to be 4 by 2. Okay, so you find the area of all those, and you get 76 centimeters squared. Same thing on this one. The bottom and top is 3 by 4. The 2 sides are 6.5 by 3. And then the front and back is 4 by 6.5. All right, you've got 2 sides apiece for each of those. So when you add them all together, you get 115 centimeters squared. All right, so I'll let you kind of look through that, make sure you've got everything correct. Now, on our next page, we've kind of got a graph, and we're going to be working through that just to kind of find some of these answers. Okay, so let's flip it over. So I'm going to graph these points. Graphing is one of my favorite things to do, but it's going to be -5, 4, 2, 4, -5, -2, and 2, -2. All right. So if I connect the dots, I'm going to have a rectangle. All right. I'm going to have a rectangle. Okay. Now the formula for area for a rectangle is going to be A equals length times width. A equals length times width. And then the length is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the width is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need to find the perimeter. So I've got a 6, a 6, a 7, and a 7. Okay, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 7 times 2, 14. So that's going to be my perimeter all the way around is 12 plus 14, which is 26. Okay, and if I was to find the area, I've got 6 times 7. 6 times 7 is going to be 42. Okay, so my area is going to be 42. And then we're going to title that units. Okay, at the bottom, I'm going to graph these 3 points. So -4, 6, -4, 2, -1, 2. When I connect the dots on that, I have 3 vertices and 3 sides, which makes a triangle. My formula for a triangle is A equals 1/2 times base times height. Okay, and the base is going to be 3. The height is going to be 4. So the area of that would be 1/2 times BH. So 1/2 of 4 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So the area of this would be 6 units. And the perimeter for the triangle, Don't worry about that. Sorry, I should have had you skip that, but we don't know how to find the hypotenuse yet. So yeah, don't worry about that one. Okay. However, the area, like I said, A equals 1/2 times B times H. I've got A equals 1/2 times 3 times 4. Half of 4 is 2, so I've got A equals 2 times 3, which is 6 units. Okay. And when we reflect this across the y-axis, remember we just kind of counted to the line. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like looking in the mirror, okay? And that's how we do that. Now, lastly, for the last page, on this page, we're kind of working on coordinate planes still, reflecting things of that fun nature. So I've got reflect A across the x-axis. Okay, so A across the x-axis. Remember, this is the x, this is the y. So I've got A right here, and I'm reflecting it across the x-axis. So I'm going to go -2, -1. So it's going to be -2, +1. So that's point A. Sorry, that's point N. It's a reflection when I'm supposed to label it if I actually do what I'm supposed to. And the coordinates of that, like I said, are -2, 1. B across the x-axis. B across the x-axis. So this is the x-axis. So I'm going to go down 1 and then down 1 again. So it's going to be, on that one, that's going to be 3, -1. The total distance between A and N. Okay, so N is right here. A is right here, so 1, 2 units. Suppose the graph represents a map in which each grid unit equals 1 mile. If a school is located at B and a library is located at N, what is the distance between the school and the library? Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, but 1 unit equals 1 mile, so 5 times 1 is going to be 5 miles. All right. Now on number 5 here, I'm reflecting, okay, I'm reflecting across the x-axis. So across the x-axis. So if I've got -5, +7 on the x-axis, my reflection is going to be -5, -7. All right. And then 2, 5.5 are on the y-axis. So if I've got 2, 5.5 on the y-axis, I'm going to have -2. 5.5. So look how one number changes, okay? If it's across the y-axis, the first number changes. If it's across the x-axis, the second number changes, okay? So now finding the distance between the point, what I got to do is I've got to count the absolute value on both of these or whatever number's different. So from 1 to -2, the absolute value of 1 is 1. The absolute value of -2 is going to be 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3 units. On here, my threes are the same, so I go from -2 to -4. So what that's going to be is from 2 to 4, which is 2 units. On the coordinate plane, each grid unit represents 10 feet. Polygon QRST has vertices of Q, 10, 20, R, -10, 20, S, -10, -10, and T, 10, -10. But this represents the floor plan of the room. Find the perimeter and the area, okay? So this is a rectangle. This is a rectangle. Each one of those represents 10 feet, like we said. So the perimeter, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10, and then it's going to be 10 feet. So each grid unit represents 10 feet. So 10 times 10 is going to be 100 feet for the perimeter. Now the area, I've got 2 by 3. 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, 3 times 10 is 30. Okay, so 20 times 30. When I do that, 20 times 30, I get 600 feet. and that is the area. So suppose you are given the coordinates of a vertex of a polygon. Which steps could you take to solve a problem involving the polygon's area? So what you're going to do on that one, guys, you just kind of have to plot it on some sort of coordinate plane, okay? And then just count the sides, count the lengths, okay? Then whatever, if it's a triangle, use the formula. If it's a square, use the formula. Rectangle, use the formula, okay? So I'm not going to write all that, but that's it, okay? So remember, don't forget on the volume, okay? Volume, use all your measurements, solve the equation. Probably the hardest thing on here is the surface area. Just please, please, please count the sides. Okay, count the sides. That's one of the most important things with surface area. The coordinate plane, y'all got that. That's probably one of the easiest things on here. Okay, so please study this. Look over at Sunday night as well because your test is going to be Monday. Okay, your test is going to be Monday, and we're wrapping up. Okay, guys, we're wrapping up a lot of things. So um, that's about all for it tonight. If you have questions, ask your teacher, and have a great rest of the day.